and welcome to Warrior. Not long ago, the former commander of Army Futures Command said the future of battle will be a hyperactive battlefield. Well, we're joined today by two networking experts, Army acquisition professionals, working on the future network of warfare. We hear a lot about the speed of information, that the force which processes and gathers and organizes targeting information, the faster will prevail in war. Lieutenant Colonel Koshan Arnold, as well as Mr. Rob Holloway, both Army acquisition professionals. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us, both of us.
Absolutely. Thank you for having us.
Colonel Arnold, I understand there's quite an effort underway to create a ubiquitous, pervasive, secure network for the Army, for the forces across the globe, really. Tell us what that is.
So that is the Global Secure Network that's going to support the Army's network modernization priority to achieve the unified network by 2028. This program is the Army G6's #1 network modernization priority. And as you know, the Army Chief of Staff recently mentioned that the network is the #1 modernization priority. So it's kind of a cascading effect that we're going after. So the GSN is that #1 priority. And what it is really, in essence, is it's the ability to have, I would say, just mobile SIPR.
Colonel Arnold, I looked at a couple of the slides and the maps about GSN, Global Secure Network. Looks like there are hubs throughout the world, Korea, Hawaii, there's one in North Carolina. Explain to us how this is going to work and what this means as far as dispersing nodes across the world.
Right. So I think the best way I can describe it for someone that's not familiar with the technology is CIVC, these nodes will be doorways to get to the SIPR services on the classified side. And so these nodes throughout the world allows users to quickly obtain SIPR, get on the SIPR network or access SIPR services that are behind, kind of protected enclaves or protected classified networks. And so the nodes serve the purpose to allow users to get on the network, to get there faster, right? Currently you hear about CIVC technology throughout the DoD being used, but most of the technology is stovepipe, right? And so there's usually one place to where a user who has a CIVC, a CIVC computer or CIVC technology has to go back, right? And so imagine if you're somewhere on one side of the world, all your data traffic has to come all the way back to that node just to get on the other side. And so this right here, these nodes dispersed throughout the globe, allows users to get on the network faster, or to get to SIPR services faster.
To add to that, let's think about it from an operational perspective. So whether it's a senior leader that's sitting in a hotel in Seoul, Korea, or an Army formation that's been forward deployed to Poland, there's nodes globally, so they'll be able to access through any kind of network. Doesn't matter whether it's low Earth orbit, whether it's commercial colorless, or the Department of Defense Information Network. They'll be able to access the closest CIVC node that we have around the globe, and that's really the primary enabler to this solution. Is that if I'm a soldier stationed at Fort Liberty, North Carolina, and I deploy to Europe, automatically I'll be pointed towards the node that's located in Germany, which gives me great mobility and great multi-site connectivity, and that's really the key enablers for this project.
So yeah, so I think the key is to highlight is that GSN enables a global colorless transport, right? That allows data to flow, seamlessly from post camps and stations to deployable formations throughout the world.
One of the things that struck me was this idea of aggregating information from otherwise disparate sensor pools of information. For example, you have a wireless signal, you have GPS, you have data from another system. This combined or unified network, as you talk about, is able to aggregate, analyze, kind of perform the analytics and send that information where it needs to go in a secure way.
Right now, we are in the first phase for commercial solutions for classified. We are in the survey and design phase. So we've just completed a survey at 11 global locations, and we're moving into a preliminary design phase at this point right now, where the integrator will provide us with a preliminary design. We will engineer then into the critical design, and upon critical design approval, then we'll get the the infrastructure ordered, procured, configured, and delivered. Once we get it delivered, we plan to test it, system acceptance testing for the government, and then we're going to train the operations and maintenance community, which for us, our primary customer in this all is Netcom.
To what extent is this enabled? You hear a lot about virtualization when you reduce the hardware footprint. To what extent is this cloud enabled? And then, of course, there's that paradox with the cloud. You increase access to information, but then you can have more points of entry. So it can create security challenges. A, to what extent is it using the cloud? And then B, how are you addressing that predicament, I guess you'd call it?
Yeah, the GSN is definitely primed to leverage cloud technologies. The objective is to, of course, scale access, promote better data organization. We have, within the GSN contract, we have the capability to pivot from a virtual desktop infrastructure into cloud and scale at that point.
Well, that's excellent. That makes a lot of sense. I'm tracking. I also read something about, which reminds me of years ago, common operating environment. And Colonel Arnold, I'd love your thoughts on this. Interoperability is a key word that you mentioned. The ability to exchange securely information from one location to another seamlessly, correct, and securely. To what extent does that rely on common standards, what's often referred to as COE or IP protocol?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Oh, sure. To what extent does common operating environment play when it comes to better enabling this in terms of common standards?
Yeah, I think when it comes to common standards, I think where GSN really comes into play is, I would just go back to the colorless transport, right? So the ability for data to ride on one network. So this is really about transport, right? Moving data seamlessly across the network, the eliminating the need to have separate infrastructure at the user level. That's really what it, kind of what I'm keying in on as it pertains to common anything, right? It's really about ease on this end with GSN. It's just about taking the data from one environment and seamlessly moving over the network without the need to have the extra infrastructure in between, because CFC takes care of that encryption to get it to civil services somewhere else across the world. Over.
I'm tracking that. And what about the layering or the scaling of information? You don't necessarily need everything to go everywhere all the time, but rather tailored increments of information as needed, sort of sent securely. Is that about right, or what's your sense of that?
When you say scaling, what do you mean by that? Scaling and leveraging information. What do you mean?
By scaling, I mean, in some extents, you have a massive data flow, and then in other areas, you'd have more truncated or more specifically tailored sets of data that were relevant only to that mission.
Right. So again, so GSN is not about it's not about creating or maintaining data. It's just giving it, ease of data moving across the network. That's really what I go back to, right? And so making it easier for data to move across the network. That's kind of what GSN really is about. Over.
Roger that. And Mr. Holloway, what would this mean? And you provided some scenarios before. What would this mean for a forward deployed unit on the move that needs to see perhaps clear classified information about an enemy formation on the other side of a ridge? Will this better expedite that? Sounds like it would.
Yeah, I agree. It would definitely better expedite this, because they do not, the tactical formation would not have to, okay, so let me give this scenario. If a tactical formation is moving from, once again, Fort Liberty to a theater of operations, maybe it's South Korea, typically they would have to wait until they get to that theater of operations, set up their infrastructure to then be able to access their SIPR resources. This enables them, the Global SIPR Network will enable them to, Global Secure Network will enable them to access their secure data along the way and after they get there without having to set up all that infrastructure.
Oh, that's great. Now, how is that accomplished while maintaining security? That really paints a very clear picture, Mr. Holloway, because what you're talking about is mobile classified information that's secure. So without having to go from one command post and set up at a specific fixed location, you can sustain that connectivity. So, Colonel Arnold, how is that made possible?
Yeah. Right. So I think, go ahead, Rob. I'll let Rob answer this.
Well, it's all in the NSA capability packages, right? So we're enabling with this program. We're going to enable the enterprise gray implementation. We're going to implement the data at rest. We're going to implement the multi-site connectivity and the mobile access capability packages. So all these capability packages really kind of express in further technical and deeper detail how we get after securing that data as it traverses any network, right? And then, I wish I had them in front of me. I would have a little bit more detail on exactly what's in the capability packages, but that's the strategy that we're utilizing in order to go after the technicalities of within the capability.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and it calls to mind something I was going to ask you about, which is you mentioned encryption. What's the transport layer? Is this essentially RF, or can this happen through fiber optic cables? If you're on the move, it of course would need to be wireless.
This is colorless transport,
right?
And so, as long as the bandwidth or whatever supports the traffic, then it can go through it, right? That's why we say colorless transport. Whether it's commercial, you're in some hotel somewhere, or you're piggybacking off a country's internet infrastructure, or whether it's the NIPRNet, right? It's colorless transport. Right. Wi-Fi, NIPRNet, commercial, colorless, doesn't matter. And so that's where the rubber meets the road as it pertains to GSN, is the ability to traverse data across colorless network, across the network, whether it's SIPR classified, NIPR, commercial, Wi-Fi, anywhere that supports the bandwidth of it, it'll work. Over.
Right, and if I could just add to Colonel Arnold's observation, organizations invest a lot of money into SIPRNet infrastructure within their buildings, within their formations, and the capability to access this through the NIPRNet, through commercial colorless networking, through Wi-Fi at Starbucks. I'm not saying that that's the right thing to do, because policy will dictate that you shouldn't access SIPR resources at Starbucks, but the key enabler will enable an individual or a soldier or a formation to do that on the move. And that's really the power of this. And not only enable them to do this on the move, but enable commanders to divest and save money on that SIPR infrastructure that they typically would be investing lots and millions of dollars to have in their building and tether folks to a certain room or a certain desk. So they move out and they're able to be on the move. So that's the real, if I have to give anything to take away from this, it's on the move.
Yeah. And I think, Chris, that's to piggyback, that's really exciting. I know it doesn't sound sexy because it's not aviation, it's not an Apache helicopter or a tank blowing up stuff. I get it. I got it. But it's exciting to me as the product manager to see this being implemented, because what's not mentioned is all the bureaucracy, I would say, that comes with trying to maintain or trying to stand up a SIPR network at each individual location across the Army, right? You know this, we all know, it is extremely cumbersome on the unit to have to maintain this. So take that current environment and then shift to the future to where organizations can either order a bunch of CIVC or commercial solution for classified laptops, but let's just call it CIVC, CIVC laptops, and that laptop, once it's turned on and configured, it's automatically connected, and they now have mobile access wherever they go, whether it's in this room that we in right now, or whether it's a hotel room, as like Rob said about policy to prevent that. But it's just that mobility that we are bringing to office, and so again, that's just kind of exciting for me, bringing mobility to the Army as it pertains to the actual network that we fight on, which is the CIPR network. Mm-hmm. Over.
Well, Roger that. I wanted to pick up on a word you mentioned, colorless. It might help to understand what you were specific. 3, 2, 1. Roger, I wanted to pick up on what you were talking about in terms of the term colorless. Now, essentially, if I'm getting that correctly, it means mobile, secure data exchange while on the move, regardless of transport layer or regardless of method of transition. Is that, and could you explain colorless a little bit for us?
Yes. 3, 2, 1. So colorless transport, right? As an Army, as a whatever for internet, we operate on different networks. We have, you have the NIPR network, you have the CIPR network, but you also have you also have the commercial network. So when we say colorless network, red, blue, black, right? Those are the colors. So colorless meaning, when we say colorless transport, meaning that the data for CIVC can transport over any of those networks. So NIPR or commercial network, or the DODN or the Army or the government network or commercial network. So colorless network is really, it can go over commercial or it can go over government. And so, as you know, right now, to be able to really secure traffic can't traverse colorless network. It doesn't work like that, right? You have to be, unless you're using some CIVC technology, you have to use either you can only use CIPR, the CIPR designated CIPR network. Now, NIPR networks, of course, you got a VPN back to use that network over the commercial line, and so that's what I mean when I say colorless network, or the ability for a secure data to traverse colorless network. What I'm saying is it has the ability to traverse the black network, commercial, or the government network, blue or whatever. Over.
Oh, I'm tracking. So how do you enable security with that kind of additional interoperability or transportability?
So that goes back to the NSA capability packages, right? So CIVC, that is the NSA developed solution for colorless transport for CIPR traffic. Or am I saying that right, Rob?
Yes, sir. I think it goes back to, well, first of all, I would like to just state that colorless is a term that you hear, but others around have used dirty internet too, right? So we could throw that term in there, the dirty internet. How is data protected across the dirty internet? Or the colorless internet, or even the NIPR net. It's all to do with the NSA standards and the way that the solution is built at the Army Enterprise Data Centers and with the end user device itself. Between the two, the information is double. There's a double virtual tunnel built, so it's like a virtual private network twice, and it's encrypted twice. So it would take probably a quantum computer a long time to break that double encryption. So I don't see how that it could, possibly. Let me stop right there and take that one again here.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Let me. I'm not going to use this question, but let me just take one step back and say, let's. Tell me together in a general sense, what global secure network is. You have these nodes all around the world that instead of needing to go and set up a hardware footprint in an actual location, you can more seamlessly and ubiquitously share information across a node of different transport layers quickly and more efficiently and more securely. But don't listen to me. I want to hear you guys explain that.
No, I think you said it right. I wouldn't just say data. I'll say classified data, right? So
Okay.
that's really the key to this is uh, you eliminate the need for units to have to set up SIPR infrastructure, static SIPR infrastructure at that. And so, what you're getting with this, with GSN, is mobility, as we've stated. Organizations can go wherever they want with their CivC laptops, as long as they have access to a commercial or NIPRNet or whatever, they have access to their secure data that may reside back in their garrison environment, may reside back in the data center, right? And so that's what this is. It's really, um, in my mind, it really eliminates the need for an organization to have to worry about setting up SIPR infrastructure wherever they go, right? They can just piggyback off the network or the internet that's in place there, either whether it's commercial, whether it's NIPR or whatnot. As long as as long as that connection have access to the internet, then CivC technology will enable them to not have to use SIPR infrastructure or architecture. Over.
I
And I
totally
would add
tracking
that,
that. Go ahead, Mr. Holloway.
I was going to say, I would add that this is also taking on a follow the sun type of thought process here with its implementation, wherein the regional cyber centers globally are remotely managing these nodes. So with the remote management of these nodes, the it's kind of a follow the sun. It's a full mesh capability to where a regional cyber center in one region has the capability to look at other regions as well. The global cyber center will be overall responsible for the global orchestration of this. But if there's a shortage of personnel at one regional cyber center, then another regional cyber center can pick up the slack in staffing to monitor the system, which is going to be greatly helpful for resources with the Army. And on top of that, it's going to be helpful uh, from a 24/7 standpoint of that's how the Army operates 24/7, right? 365 days a year, except the leap years, 366.
Well, this is a big deal because for years we've tracked Mission Command on the Move. It's been a huge focus for the Army. I recall PEOC3T not long ago, tactical intelligence ground reporting technology, a mobile intelligence database. You come across something where there may have been an incident or there's relevant information from the past. You then see a synopsis of that information. It sounds to me like this is going to expedite that kind of process in an exponentially faster and more efficient way. Is that right?
I would say so. The one of the metrics that we're looking at is the very high availability. 5 nines of availability is what we're looking at. So that's what we expect out of this program. Any given node can only be down for 10 seconds,
Yeah.
and that's nothing.
Is when it comes to organizing and analyzing information and transmitting that information, regardless of the transport layer or the specific internet, to what extent are we enabled with AI?
Oh, good question.
So AI higher level, right? That has to deal with the analysis of data and how to interpret data and provide, kind of good responses of recommendations. So the analysis of data that's higher than GSN. GSN is transport, right? So it's just allowed that data to move faster across the network seamlessly, right, from one location to the next. And so AI really is here. GSN is helping move that data faster and ubiquitously across, as we say again, colorless network.
I'm tracking. How can it transition if it starts on a commercial network somewhere and then needs to transit to a CyberNet or to a government network? How does it make that transition?
So it's already separate traffic. It's already secure. It's just that when we need to move it, it's packaged, right? It is double encrypted, and then it's sent across the commercial network. It gets to the other side. It gets through the door at the node. In essence, that package is unwrapped, and that data is still separate. It doesn't change. It's still secure data, right, on the other end, except that it came via the commercial internet or it came via the NIPRNet, right? Double encrypted. It's still secure, and it's still the same data. Data doesn't change. It's just the gift, the protection around it is what the GSN or the CIVC technology would provide it.
If I could add as well, uh, what Colonel Arnold is describing is the early stages of this. When we get to the later state, to the second and third phase, where we set up the virtual desktop infrastructure and the multiple independent levels of security, then soldiers or civilians in the formations will have thin client devices in which the data will never reside on that device at all. It's all in the Army Enterprise Data Center, or if we decide to pivot to the cloud, it will be in the cloud. So there's no secure data that will ever be permanently residing on the thin client device. It's just like any virtual desktop infrastructure access today. Really, what you're doing is accessing your desktop in a cloud-like environment.
Excellent. I love what you said about, and it really helped understand things, really clear things up when you talked about the secure packets of data remaining secure, whether it's a commercial network or not. How is that accomplished? That's amazing. I mean, that does give you that versatility, right, and that ability to transmit faster and under different circumstances.
So that really goes back to the NSA developed CIVC or commercial solutions for classified technology. So that's really how that is accomplished.
I want to put the emphasis on commercial solutions for classified, right? So these are commercial solutions that we're taking advantage of here. Currently, we have NSA Type 1 encryption, right? So that's another component of this, that the multi-site connectivity capability through CIFC will enable the Army to divest from, right? Mm-hmm. So I would say that there's the primary component that enables this is going to be what we call the gray network, right? So we have the black, the gray, and the red. This is all on the NSA capability package, open for public display at the NSA CIFC website. So you can read all about the black, the gray, the red network. So whatever network it comes to, it comes into the black firewall, goes through the black stage, then it goes into the gray stage, then it will go into the red stage through the red firewall. And when it comes out the other side of the red firewall, then it'll move into a SIPR consolidated security suite before it hits the red network, before it hits the actual red network. So there's a lot of layers of security that go into ensuring that the right users are accessing the network, and that the data is packaged, bundled, and secure from end to end, from the device to where it hits the black network, right? So right now, if you think about it, users have multiple devices that they have to log into to get to the CyberNet, to get to the NIPRNet, to get to BICES, to get to Centrix, all bundled into one device to reach all those networks.
So both of you are working on some cutting edge stuff, which essentially enables secure information to transmit instead of, as you mentioned, Mr. Holloway, having to go from one fixed infrastructure to another and have the process encumbered by time delays. You have lower latency and you have the ability to share information on the move, and regardless of whether it's commercial or government network.
That's right. So the solution, in the end, the solution seeks to protect the Army's most critical information and systems against cyber attacks by hardening and defending cyber infrastructure utilizing commercial solutions for classified.
And Colonel Arnold, you talked about encryption being able to secure information regardless of what it's transmitting through, whether it's commercial or government. Could you elaborate on that? Because that seems like a technological breakthrough to an extent. That seems like paradigm changing. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right, right? And so, just think about today, where we at with how secure data has to move across the network, right? It has to go from one static location to the other, no matter where it is in the world. And so, that static locations, right? They have a bunch of processes and responsibilities that are tied to it. And so, what we're bringing to the Army is mobility, for the ability for data to traverse the network from anywhere in the world without the need. That's the key. Without the need to set up separate infrastructure at those locations.
And tell us about these hubs that instead of needing to set up a full infrastructure, we reduce the hardware footprint so you can go from Korea to Germany to North Carolina with information exchange, regardless of the kind of network, and that information is still secure. Elaborate on that and tell us about these hubs.
And so these hubs are, what enables the mobility, right? Because those hubs are in static locations. They don't need to move. And so the data, all the user needs at his desk or around him immediately, him or her, is just the laptop, the CIVC or this commercial solution for classified laptop. And as long as he has that, he has access to this global secure network. And so these nodes are the doors that allows users to get to the CIPR services on the CIPR side, or the classified services on the CIPR side. Am I?
That's correct,
right?
Sir.
And
Yep.
so again, the key, name of the game is just is mobility, and eliminating the need to have static infrastructure.
In tactical terms, this could save lives if you get to a forward location and there's a wealth of intelligence related to what kind of operation might need to be conducted there. The faster you access the time-sensitive information, the better positioned you are to prevail in battle.
Yeah, that's right. I would look at this as a significant It provides a significant or enables a significant operational advantage. So just kind of to caveat off of what Lieutenant Colonel Arnold has been saying, it unshackles end users from their CIPR cafes, their dedicated spaces to CIPR access. It enables them to be mobile, all while divesting from this expensive organizational level CIPR infrastructure.
Yeah, and just
excellent.
Really,
last question. And then when you talked about I recall the CIO for DoD, Mr. Halverson, years ago wanted to migrate most of the systems to Windows 10. When you go to commercial systems, how do you maintain security? I understand that is possible, but I'd love to know how you approach that challenge as you implement this.
Well, I would say that this is not exactly commercial equipment that has not been vetted, right? All of this it has to be on an approved product list. So the equipment is NSA approved. The commercial equipment is NSA approved. We couldn't just buy something that is not on that list, even if we wanted to. It's all a part of the capability package. It's all explained in the capability package, but that's how I would characterize how we get to it. Is it's been tested, it's been vetted, it's been put through the fire, and as long as we utilize that list, then we can construct the solution as we see necessary in order to get after the requirements that the Army has to be more mobile, to be more agile. So that
well,
would
if
be
anyone's wondering about the future challenges of war, they want to come talk to the two of you. Thanks for being here and helping shed light on what is a really fast-moving and complicated threat situation for the future. Two Army experts, acquisition professionals, Colonel Donald and Mr. Holloway. Thanks for being here.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate your time.